The lecture hall at Centauri Prime University buzzed with the usual academic energy as Professor Klicksvan prepared to begin his advanced xenobiology seminar. Among the 200 students from 12 different species sat Jessica Park, the sole human exchange student, quietly taking notes in the back corner as she had for the past semester. Jessica had grown accustomed to the stares and whispered comments about the Death Worlder in their midst. Her presence was part of a new diplomatic initiative between Earth and the Galactic Educational Consortium, and she was determined to prove that humans could contribute meaningfully to galactic academia. Today we will examine the reproductive cycles of the Veltheri hive species, Professor Klicksvan announced, his crystalline voice resonating through the chamber's acoustics. The holographic display showed complex diagrams of the insected aliens' breeding chambers. That's when the first explosion shook the building. Emergency sirens began wailing as Professor Klicksvan's communication device crackled to life. All faculty and students, this is university security. The Hegemony War Fleet has launched a surprise attack on Centauri Prime. Academic buildings are under lockdown. Remain in your current locations. Panic erupted throughout the lecture hall. Students from the peaceful Altarian Federation wept openly, while the normally stoic Crystalline Consortium members vibrated with distress frequencies. Even the predatory Vortak in the class appeared shaken by the sudden assault. Jessica remained seated, her expression unchanged. Estimated time until Hegemony ground forces reach the university? She asked calmly, addressing the professor directly. Klicksvan checked his display with trembling appendages. Approximately 47 minutes based on their current advance rate. Jessica nodded thoughtfully, then stood up. For the first time in months, every eye in the room focused on the small human female. Professor, I need to ask a favor, she said, walking toward the front of the classroom. Do you have access to the university's maintenance systems? Yes, but why would? I'm going to need building schematics, power grid access, and a complete inventory of the chemistry lab supplies. Also, does anyone know if the engineering department still has those industrial fabricators running? A Vortak student named Grixtal spoke up, his voice uncertain. Jessica, what are you planning? We should be hiding, not. Hiding won't work, Jessica interrupted matter-of-factly. The Hegemony doesn't take prisoners from academic institutions. They consider education a form of cultural contamination. She paused, studying the faces around her. But I might be able to buy us some time. Within minutes, Jessica had transformed from quiet exchange student into something entirely different. She moved through the lecture hall with purposeful efficiency, organizing students into teams and assigning tasks with military precision. Altarians, you're on communication duty. Use your natural telepathic abilities to coordinate between floors. Crystallines, I need you accessing the university's data network. Map every structural weakness in the buildings surrounding us. Boardhack students, you're with me on defense preparation. Defense preparation? Professor Klicksvan squeaked. With what? This is a university, not a military installation. Jessica smiled, and for the first time, her classmates caught a glimpse of something that made their survival instincts scream warnings. Professor, this is Earth's oldest and most prestigious institution of learning. We call it higher education for a reason. Over the next 37 minutes, Jessica orchestrated something that would later be studied in military academies across the galaxy. Using nothing but standard laboratory equipment, maintenance supplies, and the diverse skill sets of her classmates, she turned the lecture hall into a fortress. The chemistry students synthesized compounds that shouldn't have been possible with university equipment. The engineering majors jury-rigged defensive systems from educational demonstration models. The biology students applied their knowledge of anatomy to identify the optimal pressure points for incapacitating different species. When the Hegemony assault team finally breached the building, they expected to find cowering academics waiting for capture. Instead, they found themselves facing a coordinated defense network that had transformed a center of learning into a tactical nightmare. Every doorway was a choke point, every corridor a kill zone, and every piece of furniture a potential weapon. The assault lasted exactly 14 minutes before the surviving Hegemony forces retreated, carrying reports that would change how the galaxy viewed both human exchange students and educational institutions. Jessica Park returned to her seat in the back corner of the lecture hall, her notebook ready as if nothing had happened. "Professor," she said politely, "I believe you were discussing Velthari reproductive cycles?" Professor Clixvan stared at the small human who had just repelled a military assault using textbooks and laboratory glassware. Around the room, her classmates looked at her with a mixture of awe and terror. "Jessica," he managed, "what exactly do they teach you at Earth universities?" Jessica considered the question seriously. "Critical thinking, creative problem solving, and the practical application of theoretical knowledge under pressure." She paused, then added, "Also, we have a saying, the pen is mightier than the sword. We just interpret it more literally than most species expect." As emergency services arrived and the all-clear signal sounded, Jessica made a quiet note in her academic journal. Lesson learned. Apparently other species don't include tactical applications in their standard curriculum. Recommend adding this to next semester's cultural exchange orientation materials.